12. The booming voice caused Lex to jump in surprise, nearly toppling off the side of the peak. Gryph grabbed him by the scruff of his robes and held him secure. The diminutive NPC grunted his thanks. Thanks, man. I don't like being this high up, Lex said, before realizing he'd just mocked his small stature. He gave Gryph a "don't say it" look, and Gryph stifled a smile. Are you ready, player? Ready to serve me? Ready to rid this world of evil? Gryph and Lex turned to see the avatar of the high god Alaron once again. The experience with the other gods had done nothing to diminish the power and potency of this man-turned-god. Part of Gryph still knew that he was merely Alistair Bishard, CEO of Sacrosanct Integrative Networks. But here and now, he knew that if he wished it, Alaron could crush him like the smallest of bugs. I am ready to do what is necessary to protect those who cannot protect themselves and to rid the realms of evil, Gryph said, forcing defiance into his vow. Alaron turned his head an inch, his gaze boring into Gryph's eyes. Did he detect a hint of suspicion in the high god's face? Was his assumption right? Was this man simply an avatar and not the real thing? After a moment, Alaron nodded. Your pledge is accepted and archived, Alaron said, before turning his gaze on Lex. Lex just grinned until Gryph nudged him. Yeah, Lex said, giving a wink and a hearty thumbs up. Ready to serve, excited to thrash evil and junk. Your pledge is accepted and archived, Alaron said again. The high god waved his hand, and a doorway appeared and opened. On the other side lay a pleasant village. People walked to and fro, buying and selling wares in an open-air market. Smoke rose from the chimney of a pleasant inn, carrying the smell of cooking food to Gryph's nose. His stomach grumbled, and he realized he was starving. Don your armor, equip your weapons, and prepare to enter the realms. Adventure and glory await. Gryph opened his inventory and surveyed the contents. On the left stood a representation of him. It was a crude avatar that allowed him to see what he looked like with various clothing, armor, and weapons equipped. In a world with few mirrors, was this the way people in the realms checked themselves before going out for the day? His avatar wore a rough-spun tunic, pants, bracers, gloves, and a hat. Each provided him with a measly 1 point of armor class, AC, but he supposed they were better than nothing. He buckled his belt of deafness around his waist and felt more energized as his dexterity jumped by 3 points. Gryph sheathed his dagger and hooked it to his belt next to the coil of rope. He equipped his Eladrine swift spear, and his avatar did a few test spins and a thrust before settling back. Each potion stacked in a single spot based upon type, no matter how many he had. Nice perk, he thought. He reached up to close his inventory window when something at the bottom sparkled and caught his interest. The mote of energy came into focus, and a prompt filled his vision. Prime Godhead. Tier 0. Item class, Mote of Creation. Item category, Unknown. Base damage, Unknown. Base AC, Unknown. Active powers, Unknown. Passive powers, Power 1. Gift of Tongues. Understand any language heard. Further powers, Unknown. Mana limit, Unknown. Cooldown, Unknown. A prime godhead is a mote of creation. You have learned the skill Identify. Level 1. Tier Base. Skill type Passive. You have shown an ability to identify items you find. You can now identify non-magical and base tier magical items and will know their stats and abilities. You are able to identify the tier of any magical item, but you will not know their stats and abilities. A new tier opens every 10 levels. What the hell? Gryph said in shock. What the hell what? Lex said, idly digging something from his beard. I found something weird in my inventory. Weird how? Lex sniffed the mystery item, his nose scrunching up in distaste. Have you ever heard of a prime Godhead? It says it's a divine artifact, whatever the heck that is. Lex's eyes widened in panic, and he shot a glance at Alaron. The High God's avatar seemed to pay no attention. Lex cast an odd smile at the god, and then pulled Gryph aside. It looks like I can equip it, Gryph said, his eyes still glazed from examining his inventory. No, no, no! Lex yelled in panic and moved to slap Gryph across the face to force his attention. The world slowed as Gryph moved the prime Godhead. It clicked into a glowing slot in the middle of his forehead, the home of the third eye in some ancient mythologies. His mind exploded in a supernova of expansion. Thin filaments expanded from the prime Godhead and wormed their way into his body. They traversed and replaced nerves and enhanced neural connections. Gryph screamed. Time slowed to a crawl. Lex's hand hovered mere inches from Gryph's face, but at that pace it would take an hour to find its mark. Alaron's eyes came alive and widened in shock as they moved to look at Gryph. But Gryph was elsewhere. He became the source at the beginning of time. Thought erupted from nowhere into the endless expanse of ether that was all of creation. Eddies and whirls of potentiality popped in and out of existence. The war of creation had begun. Gryph's small mind couldn't understand the experience. His consciousness unraveled as it sought solace, a safe place amongst primal energies giving birth to reality. A mote of energy, the tiniest fraction of the source, beckoned, and Gryph's mind fell into it. Gryph fell into ease, and he stopped screaming. His eyes opened as the prime Godhead, a mote of creation itself, completed its integration. He saw Lex's wide eyes and outstretched hand. He also saw Alaron's gaze on him. Not the empty shell that had directed his character creation. This was the real Alaron, Beshard himself. He was also something else, something more ancient than both, and terror filled its eyes. Time returned to normal, and Lex's hand slapped across his face. The pain barely registered. Alaron was all of Gryph's attention. Gryph's body surged with energy, and he knew what must be done. With all his strength, Gryph shoved his NPC through the doorway into the realms. As Lex stumbled through the threshold, he screamed, "No!" Once Gryph was sure that Lex would make it through the portal, he charged after him. But Alaron moved quicker than he could have imagined and blocked the doorway. The High God raised his sword and swung a blow that would have taken Gryph's head clean off had he not predicted the move and tucked and rolled past the enraged god. Gryph was past Alaron and sprinted towards the door. The High God raised his sword and pointed the tip at Gryph's back. With a word in some ancient language, a bolt of multi-chromatic energy erupted from the tip. Gryph dove, hit the ground hard, and slid towards the portal. On the other side, Lex sprawled on his back, his short legs upended, a scene that would have been hilarious under different circumstances. Gryph's skid would take him through the portal as well, and he cheered in triumph. Then Alaron's bolt hit the surface of the doorway. It pulsed and morphed and changed to a stark desert, then a deep ocean, and then a camp in the mountains, then back to the village with Lex back on his feet, yelling soundlessly. When Lex saw Gryph, he tried to jump back through the portal, but as he touched the threshold, energy coursed through the short Ordonian's body and knocked him to the ground. Another bolt of energy hit the floor near Gryph, and his body seized in pain. He felt as if he'd been electrocuted, and the bolt hadn't even hit him. Gryph saw his red health bar dip by nearly 30% as he stood and ran towards the portal, his muscles tightening in spasms. Gryph jumped as the air became heavy with energy again. He passed through the threshold just as the portal switched to somewhere dark.